Hello, this is John, and you found my channel, John Reviews It. So, today, what are we going to be talking about? Well, if you look at my table here, might be pretty obvious. We're going to be talking about XLR cables. How much should you spend, and what are you really getting for your money? So, I have several different ones here on my table. I have some high-end Shunyata research cables here. Step down from that would be some Mogami Platinum XLRs. A little bit of a step down from those would be the Mogami Golds. And a little bit of a step down from those would be the Emotiva XLR cables. So, what are you really getting for your money? Well, let's start with the top-end dogs here. You're getting a company who has supposedly done a bunch of research, has took the time to not only well construct these, but use different techniques for putting the cables together. They are very specific about what type of connectors they use, and how high a quality of connectors you get will all depend on how much you're willing to spend. In this case, these were some Delta V1 XLR cables from Shunyata Research. They're pretty well made. They're pretty good quality. I have zero complaints about them. Only complaint I have, and why I kind of like the Mogami Platinums just a smidge more, really comes down to the connectors inside here. These are made of copper, nothing wrong with copper. Theirs are actually made of silver. And if you know anything about your audio connection, silver does give you a little bit better contact point. So I would say for the money savings, I would get the Mogami Platinums, because they're just as well made, nice good quality construction. Plus, if you look hard enough and do enough research, you can find out that not only can you use these like standard XLR cables, I have read that there may even be a possibility you can even use this as like a AES EBU XLR style cable to make digital connections. Not something you can do with the Shunyata Research. Those you literally have to buy their specific ones for that. Whereas these Mogami Platinums might actually work both ways. At least from the research that I've done, it seems that is the case. And if that is the case, that makes them even more of a bang for their buck. So, as far as highly recommended ones, Mogami Platinum right now sits on top of the list. But let's talk about these other ones, because let's face it, these aren't the only ones that are really good, in my opinion, for their price point. Mogami Golds, they're roughly about, I think they're roughly about half, sometimes depending on where you look and how long of a length you're getting, probably about 2/3 the cost of the Mogami Platinums. Nothing's wrong with them. They're well made. I have owned these particular pair of Mogami Golds for a very long time. And when I say a very long time, I've had them for years. I've used them with a pair of studio monitors. I've used them to go between my preamp and the amp. So yeah, they're not terrible. They're not high end like these guys. Not quite as good as these guys, in my opinion. Or, well, they're the same company, but just higher level, higher quality construction. But that's really it. Once again, the three, still tell you go with the Mogami Platinums. And then on the low end of the scale, you have the Emotiva cables. Now, for the price, I'm going to flat out tell you, these are probably some of the best XLR cables you're going to get for the cost. Reason being, they got nice high-end connectors. Downside, they do use copper internals for the connectors, but you want to spend a little extra money to get the silver connection points, go with the Mogami Platinum. Or your favorite higher end audio cable that offers it, but be prepared to probably spend somewhere $1,000+, probably even more than that from what I've seen just on some of the research I've done. But for what these do for home theater use, they're well made, they're well constructed. The cable, honestly, just the cover alone, I mean, it is almost as thick, if not probably just a hair thicker than these Mogami Platinums, which I highly recommend. Not quite near as thick as this, because these got all kinds of shieldings and coatings and sleeves all over them to make them as thick as they are. But for what you get for your money, you can't go wrong with these. If you're trying to do something on a budget, check them out. They're well made. Nobody complains about them online. I would say the Mogami Platinums, yes, are a step up if you're willing to pay, you know, possibly for the same 2-meter run. About these are roughly about, I think, $110 or $120 a cable, versus these, which I believe were, don't hold me to my number here, I believe they were like $35 a cable. $35 or $40 a cable, which is not bad. So you can almost get 3 of these for almost the price of 1 of these. So that being said, what would you go with? Well, that's up to you and your budget. If you don't have much of a budget, I would not tell you to hesitate to look at these Emotiva XLR cables. Got a little bit better budget, go with the Mogami Platinums. You definitely ain't gonna be dissatisfied with them. Could you go with some of these other stuff like higher end cables, or even if you want something kind of in between the Mogami Platinums and a little, I don't know if I'd call them better than the Emotivas, but they are very well made, the Mogami Golds. Yeah, you could do that. But I'd probably tell you for the price points, Emotiva at about $35 to $40 a cable. The Mogami Platinums, and keep in mind I'm basing this once again on about a 2-meter run, not on anything longer. So just keep in mind with the Mogami Platinums, they can sell some that have runs of upwards of 50 to 100 foot, I believe, and you will pay a significant price difference. The longest cable I have as far as Mogami Platinums go are my 12-foot cables, which right now I only have one, and it's going to my SVS PB17. And tell you, I'm not mad I chose that cable for my PB17. I'll probably buy another one when I get my second PB17. And I have been seriously debating if I'm going to maybe make all my bed layer speakers, at least in my home theater, run the Mogami Platinums. Now, I might use these guys for my other speakers, like my Atmos, just because, you know, I'm probably not going to go with something super high-end for that. I kind of want to keep as good a consistent sound as possible going to my bed layer speakers, so that's where I stand on that. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comment box below. I'll be happy to answer them. Once again, y'all can type in some of this stuff in Google. You can hit their AI where it does a little bit of the homework for you, and you can see where I found a lot of the information on these cables and how they're made and what type of materials are used. And that's another great way to do some research if you're looking for some XLR cables. Until my next video, y'all have a great day.